Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. I'm going to consider this a Tryharding Modern deck, even though it's probably mad meta, simply because the initial Cabal Coffers control list was Tryharding. But the idea with this one is we've dropped the curve as much as we can. I originally was going to play a Liliana build, which I think could still work and still be fun, but I know at least one person has been asking to play a Torment of Hailfire-centric list. And so we're playing Cabal Coffers Turbo Hailfire and seeing how good it is. I mean, I could be playing Besiege You here, but I think we have enough hand hate to clear the way for Torment, so that we'll be fine. I kept the Maze Mine Tomes because I am going to want to draw extra cards, and the Scry is going to be very useful to get to whatever we need to get to in the deck. The big changes are I added 4 fetches and Fatal Push just so that we would have 1 mana removal. I know a lot of people were suggesting Fatal Push and I was resistant to it for a long period of time, but this is going to serve sort of as a test run for that. I kept the Blood Chief's Thirst in. I put a Collective Brutality back in the main. I'm playing Sign in Blood now because I really want to get through my deck a lot faster than I was before. If I cast like 3 hand hate spells, I definitely want to cast a Sign in Blood to then reload. We're still playing 4 Erebos' Intervention because the life gain is going to matter a lot. The main deck Grave Hate is quite nice. We're playing 2 Masterminds Acquisition, so if we need to Masterminds Acquisition for something in the deck, or we need to Masterminds Acquisition for something that doesn't directly win us the game, we have the opportunity to do so. And we're playing Razaketh's Right as our other tutor of choice, instead of Increasing Ambition, because this cycle's early and can help us kind of churn through our deck looking for Cabal Coffers or whatever it is we need to be doing. Sideboard is mostly unchanged. I had the 4th Leyline, and I added 2 Break the Ice. I moved the Worm Coil to the sideboard because I think still having it versus Burn or having it as a Wishboard target is still reasonable. But other than that, that's all I changed. So let's see what happens. Turbo Torment of Hailfire. Hopefully it's good. Alright, we get to be on the play. And we have a double hand hate Urborg Coffers Torment of Hailfire hand, which seems pretty sick. So we will be keeping. We're going to lead on Urborg, because I don't want to play Coffers until the 3rd turn, I think, or 4th. Start with Inquisition, and it would appear to be Heliod. So I could just take Heliod from them. They have Eladamri's Call, though. Let's take the tutor and pass the turn. Opponent starts Temple Garden tapped. We untap, we draw Swamp. Play a Castle Lochthwain. Let's go ahead and Thoughtseize. Opponent did draw land, so they will be able to eventually cast a Heliod. Let's take Walking Ballista. I'm not really that concerned with them playing a Auriok champion this turn. So opponent plays Misty. They crack Misty, they get a Temple Garden. They play Auriok champion. We untap, we draw Fatal Push. So let's begin with Sign in Blood. We get a Razaketh's Right. I'm going to play Cabal Coffers, because if I draw a second Cabal Coffers, it's going to be pretty insane. Opponent plays their Forest. They play a Heliod. Okay. They go to combat. They attack us for 1. Take 1 and go to 15. Stop on their end step. Cycle Razaketh's Right. We untap, draw Swamp, play a Swamp. How much mana is this? It's only 5. That is not enough. So let's pass the turn. Just leave up Fatal Push, I guess. Opponent plays a Plains. So they're still holding a second Heliod. They play Arbor Elf. That gains them a life and triggers Heliod. They put a counter on Champion. I took the Edicts out of this version. I'm just now realizing. I hope that's not going to matter anyway. So opponent goes to combat. They attack us for 2. Sure. They're going to give Auriok Champion lifelink. That's fine. We take 2, they gain 2. We get to put a 1/1 counter on Auriok Champion. Stop on their end step. Load a bunch of mana. Kill Arbor Elf. And I think I am going to take 5 damage to draw an extra card here. We get a Maze Mind Tome. Untap, we draw another Castle Lochthwain. So that's 7. So even at best, this would not do anything to our opponent. So we'll play Maze Mind Tome. Activate it to draw a card. We get a second Torment of Hailfire. Alright, well that gives us a backup plan in the event that the first one doesn't do enough. Maybe taking that damage was greedy, but... Opponent collected company. I guess if they hit and immediately sack Ranger Captain of Eos, that's a problem. Oh, we're dead. Okay. So yeah, a little bit aggressive. I don't think it's that big of a deal, though. We should be mostly okay versus this deck. So, well, Heliod is indestructible, I believe, so I don't think Feed the Swarm works. I probably do want a Damnation, and I can cut like a Feed the Swarm for it. We'll run it back. Alright, we'll get to be on the play. This hand is good. We'll keep. We got Disruption, we got Removal, we got Card Draw, and we got Coffers. So, lead on Thoughtseize. Opponent has Auriok Champion, Heliod, Spike Feeder. Heliod Spike Feeder would be a problem, so I think we have to take Heliod. Pass the turn. Opponent leads on Misty. We untap and draw Expedition Map. Play Verdant Catacombs, crack Verdant Catacombs, get a Swamp, play Maze Mind Tome. Opponent cracks Misty, gets a Temple Garden tapped. So my opponent's probably going to go Plains Auriok Champion. There's a Plains, there's the Auriok Champion. Scry on our opponent's end step, Urborg to the top, 100%. Untap, we draw Urborg, play Expedition Map, pass the turn. I think because we're already holding a Coffers, we need to draw an extra card with Maze Mind Tome this turn. So opponent goes to combat. They attack us for 1. We go to 16. They play Prismatic Vista, which is a card we didn't know about. And they get a Forest. And they play Spike Feeder. Okay. So on their end step, draw a card. It's a Swamp. Untap. We draw Mastermind's Acquisition. So, play Coffers. We have 5 mana this turn. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They play Horizon Canopy, which we did not know about. They probably have a Collected Company. They're going to attack us for 3. Stop on their end step. Add mana. Tutor for Cabal Coffers. Then draw an extra card. Razaketh's Right. We untap. Draw Swamp. Play Cabal Coffers. gives us 9 mana, which is not quite enough. I can tutor up Damnation. The problem is I have a lot of sorceries and my opponent's going to be playing at instant speed. So what can I do with 10 mana, is it? 9 mana. Okay. What can I do with 9 mana? I can start by cycling Razaketh's Right. Get a Verdant Catacombs. I guess I just leave up a big Erebos' Intervention / final draw off of Mazemind Tome. Opponent cycles Horizon Canopy. Okay, they did not have Collective Company, which is... or Collected Company, which is very nice. They untap and draw. If they play Heliod, we have to maximum Erebos' Intervention to kill Spike Feeder. Opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 3. Take 3 and go to 10. They Utopia Sprawl, that's fine. Okay. On their end step. Draw a card, gain some life. We get Torment. So let's go ahead and try and kill Spike Feeder. If they can Collected Company into Heliod here, and gain infinite life, we're probably just dead. So opponent gains life in response, puts a counter on Auriok Champion, then gains life. Oh, never mind, they just put the counters on Auriok Champion. Okay. We untap, we draw Torment of Hailfire. So play a Swamp. Torment of Hailfire X10. That ought to do something, right? Because it's 30 damage. They have 6 things they can sacrifice. Because they can discard their whole hand, sack Auriok Champion, and Utopia Sprawl if necessary. And they go to 1, keeping 1 card in hand. So we could actually Sign in Blood our opponent to kill them. Opponent draws a card. They can't use Horizon Canopy for mana. They discarded both forests. Opponent plays Auriok Champion number 2. Hits us for 3. We draw Feed the Swarm. Play a Swamp. Sign in Blood Swag. Veil of Summer. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I was slow rolling you. I'm sorry, opponent. This doesn't target. Alright. Moving on to game 3. I think we just run it back. Okay, this hand will not work. Mono Coffers hands never work. Urborg Castle, we have some removal. I think this is okay. I'm going to put back Razaketh's Right. Actually, yeah, I'm going to put back Razaketh's Right. That stops me from having anything to do on turn 1 unless my opponent plays a Mana Dork, which if they do, I'll probably just Thirst. Opponent plays Forest into Arbor Elf. We draw Inquisition. Kill Arbor Elf. Pass the turn. So my opponent, generally if your opponent leads on a Mana Dork, they have a 3-drop that they want to play. So if you make them play a 2-drop on 2 while you're holding an Inquisition, you can take whatever it was that they were initially going to play, unless they have multiples, in which case you're kind of sad. Only problem with this is I'm not playing Mazemind Tome on 2 if that's the case. So opponent plays a Misty Rainforest. Utopia Sprawls on white. We untap. We draw Sign in Blood. I think I will Inquisition because my opponent hasn't played anything yet. Okay, they have Heliod, Spike Feeder, Walking Ballista. So take Heliod. Play Castle. Pass the turn. I wish this deck was playing Surgical or Extirpate almost every single time that I play against a combo deck. We could play a version of this deck that wins with Haunting Echoes, and just play like Mono Surgicals the deck. Just be really rude to our opponents. I'm not sure that's actually a deck, but it sounds fun. This opponent plays a Forest. They might be playing Walking Ballista on 2, because if they top-decked Heliod or a land, and then they top-deck the other one of those 2 things, we're going to be really sad. We draw Sign in Blood. Well, Sign in Blood, because we want to draw cards now, specifically lands, and preferably coffers. There's a land. Play Verdant Catacombs, pass the turn. With Herblorg out, there's no reason to crack it unless we have a Fatal Push. Spawna goes to combat, hits us for 2. They play a Spike Feeder. They play a Temple Garden tapped. We untap. We draw Verdant Catacombs. Play Verdant Catacombs. The only issue is if our opponent draws Heliod. If they have Heliod, they have 5 mana, which means they can play and activate Heliod on Walking Ballista for infinite damage, because Walking Ballista has 2 counters. Or they can just gain infinite life. And infinite life we technically can beat because it's not actually infinite when you play on Moto. We just have to get Mastermind's Acquisition and attack with Emrakul until our opponent gives up. But pass the turn, leaving up Erebos' Intervention. Opponent attacks us for 4. They're going to put a counter on Ballista. So let's kill Ballista, X3, because this way if they move a counter over, it dies. And their best option, I think, is just to shoot us twice, because it stops us from gaining life off of Erebos' Intervention. I would really like to draw Cabal Coffers. Okay. They shoot us. And shoot us again. Okay. We do not gain any life. We go to 12. And then our opponent plays Arbor Elf. Okay. We untap. We draw Verdant Catacombs. So, Sign in Blood. I'll draw some cards. Swamp, Castle Lochthwain. Play a Swamp. Play a Mazemind Tome. Pass the turn. We just have to dodge Heliod. Opponent untaps and draws. They can hit us for 4 this turn by activating Pendelhaven on Arbor Elf, which is a little concerning. So they attack for 3. Pendelhaven up to 4. That means they probably don't have a game plan at the moment, which is nice. Ranger Captain is a problem, because we need to draw instant speed removal, because they'll just sack Ranger Captain on our turn. And with a Walking Ballista out, they can actually kill us, because we can't gain life off of Mazemind Tome this turn. Well, any turn, really. So what helps here? I don't think Fatal Push does. I guess it has to be another Erebos' Intervention? Thoughtseize to the bottom. Untap. Go ahead and scry. Cabal Coffers is great if our opponent lets us play land or play a spell, which they probably don't. So we put that to the bottom and we draw. Yep, opponent says we can't cast spells this turn. And we drew the Erebos' Intervention. So we stop on our opponent's upkeep. And technically, if they put a counter on Ballista, if they Pendelhaven Ballista, shoot Arbor Elf, and then put a counter on Ballista, I think we still die. Or they can just put 2 counters on Ballista, shoot Arbor Elf, attack, and then shoot us, and we die. Okay, never mind. They just let that go through, and we gain a bunch of life. Now we just gotta draw Cabal Coffers. Opponent did have us dead there. Opponent plays a Ranger Captain, tutors up an Arbor Elf. They're just going to Ranger Captain us again, because that's nice and interactive and fun. So take 4, go to 7. Then they play Arbor Elf. Then they can put 2 counters on Ballista and kill us. So... draw a card here? Draw Maze Mind. And we draw an Urborg. Play Verdant Catacombs. And I think we die. Yeah, because my opponent can just put a counter on Ballista, attack, and then shoot us to death. Well, we got one crazy draw, but our opponent had the second Ranger Captain. This card versus non-creature decks is a mono-white Time Walk, because it draws you a card and stops your opponent from doing anything for a turn. Never mind, we were just dead. A little bit unfortunate. Like, we had the Torment of Hailfire and a lot of mana, we just couldn't cast it for 2 turns. I don't think that matchup was unfavorable, I think we just got a little bit unlucky. Anyway, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright, round 2, we are on the play. I like this hand. Could do with another Swamp or an Urborg, but we get to lead on hand hate, so let's go ahead and Inquisition. And it is Cat Oven. Well, take Witch's Oven. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Windswept Heath, cracks it. Gets a Breeding Pool tapped. We untap, we draw a Swamp. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. So Erebos' Intervention might matter here. Opponent plays Lannis. So cycle Razaketh's Right, draw Mastermind's Acquisition, untap, we get an Inquisition of Kozilek, play Verdant Catacombs, and let's Erebos' Intervention, kill Lannis, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs into another Lannis, then passes. We draw Sign in Blood, so I'm going to fetch up a Swamp. Sign in Blood myself. Play a Swamp, Inquisition, and I will be taking Academy Manufacturer here. We can somewhat limit our opponent's token production, but these tokens make Torment of Hailfire really bad, because it just gives them like an unlimited number of things to sack. Opponent plays a Cauldron Familiar, gets a clue. They play Windswept Heath and crack it. Getting an Overgrown Tomb untapped. Playing a Cauldron Familiar, draining us for 1. They hit us for 1, we untap. We draw Thoughtseize. So I could Mastermind's Acquisition for a Wrath. I think the play, though, is just play Castle Lochthwain, Thoughtseize Rexage, pass the turn. I don't know if I want to spend 4 life on activating Castle. So opponent cracks a clue to draw. They play a Verdant Catacombs. They play an Aether Spellbomb. They go to combat. They hit us for 3. We go to 11. I think we do need to draw off of Castle here. Opponent is going to bounce the cat, then replays the cat to get another clue, and drains us for 1 again. Okay. Draw a card. Erebos' Intervention. We untap, we draw Verdant Catacombs. Play Cabal Coffers. Erebos' Intervention gains 6 life. Kill Lannis. Okay. Opponent's going to crack a clue and draw. They untap, they draw. Play Witch's Oven. That's annoying. Play Birds. They go to combat, hit us for 2, we go to 10. We untap and draw Maze Mind Tome. So play Verdant Catacombs, crack it. Get a swamp. I have 9 mana, so I could go get Wormcoil Engine. I can't play it this turn if I do. I could get Kalitas, because if they sack anything, it gets exiled instead. I actually think I'm going to do that. Play Kalitas. They sack the Cauldron Familiar for a food, then reanimate the Cauldron Familiar. They sack Verdant Catacombs, getting a Gingerbread Cabin, making a food, then crack the clue to draw. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Gilded Goose and get a food. And they play a Verdant Catacombs. We untap. We draw Erebos' Intervention. So play Castle Lochthwain. Play Maze Mind Tome. Draw a card. It's a Thoughtseize. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Opponent no blocks. They take 3, we gain 3, and we pass. Opponent untaps, so they draw. They play a Masked Vandal. I could Erebos' Intervention right now and just exile their whole grave, and they can't use Masked Vandal's effect. Okay, exile their grave. This lets me keep Maze Mind Tome, which is pretty big here. Opponent scoops. Okay, so versus cat food. I think we bring in Damnation. I think we put Kalitas in the main deck. We'll want Bantu's Last Reckoning. Bloodchief's Thirst seems a lot worse than Fatal Push here. We can drop like a Razaketh's Right. Try it like this. Alright, I'm going to keep this. We have a Wrath, we have Removal, we have Hand Hate. We're going to need to draw an Urborg or have our opponent play an Urborg for this hand to actually be good, though. We do get a number of redraws because of Sign in Blood. Opponent starts by fetching up an Overgrown Tomb, playing Birds. We draw a Swamp, which does make this hand better. Inquisition. See, opponent has Cauldron Familiar, Academy Manufacturer, and Chatterfang. I think Academy Manufacturer is the most dangerous, so gonna get rid of that. Opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs. Cracks Verdant Catacombs. They get a Breeding Pool. They play Lannis. Then they play the cat. Okay. We untap, we draw Torment of Hailfire. Play a Swamp. Sign in Blood. We get Sign in Blood, Maze Mind Tome, pass the turn. We can Bantu's Last Reckoning if we think it's necessary. Opponent plays a Chatterfang, they get to investigate. They go to combat, they attack us for 1. We take 1, go to 16, untap, draw a swamp. Play a swamp, wrath the board. My opponent currently has no cards in hand. They sack both their clues? That seems questionable. They revealed Thoughtseize and Verdant Catacombs, so they take nothing. They have 0 cards in hand, no creatures. They drew a land, we untap. Our lands actually don't untap. Play an Urborg, because that makes Coffers way better. Pass the turn. If they play nothing, or if they play out their lands, we can Torment of Hailfire X5 and kill them. Because they have nothing they can sack and nothing they discard. Wow, that worked out really nicely. Torment of Hailfire, deal 15 damage to you? It's a pretty efficient mono-black fireball. Alright, well, I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright. We'll play first. Yeah, we'll keep this. Double hand hate is generally not bad. We have Razaketh's Right cycle to kind of fill the curve. So, lead on Inquisition. Opponent is playing some kind of Jeskai, Force of Negation, Prismatic Ending deck. So, take Stoneforge Mystic from them. Pass the turn. They untap. They play Flooded Strand. We untap. We draw an Urborg. Let's go in Thoughtseize. They have Counterspell, Force Negation, Prismatic Ending, take Counterspell. Play an Urborg. Cycle Razaketh's Right. Get Torment, pass the turn. When it cracks Flooded Strand, probably getting a Hallowed Fountain or a Raugrun Triome. They untap, they play Spirebluff Canal. They play Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. We untap, we draw Mastermind's Acquisition. I play out an Urborg, because I meant to click Sign in Blood and for some reason clicked Urborg. Sign in Blood ourselves. Yep, that Thoughtseize in that land would have been useful. Pass the turn. Opponent going to attack us with Ragavan. We take 2. They exile a swamp, make a treasure. So they play Flooded Strand, which is a card they drew. We draw Mazemind Tome. Play Verdant Catacombs. Thoughtseize. Opponent hardcasts Force of Negation. Play Mazemind Tome. Pass the turn. I think the correct choice here is to scry after Ragavan hits us, because while I could potentially manipulate my top deck, I think it's better if they give us the option to... I think it's better to try and find like a Cabal Coffers after Ragavan hits us. They hit us for 2. They get a Sign in Blood and another treasure. I don't know why they use their treasures to do that when all their lands are swamps, but... okay. They play the island we knew about. Go to their end step. Let's scry. Swamp to the bottom. Untap. Scry. Erebos' Intervention to the top. Draw Erebos' Intervention. Pass the turn. They crack Flooded Strand. Getting an island. Stop on their upkeep. Erebos' Intervention. Kill Ragavan. They probably have a counterspell, because this strikes me as a deck that plays Ragavan and Stoneforge Mystic and then a billion counterspells to protect them until you beat your opponent with them. Like, probably even playing Geist. Is this a Cryptic? It is a Cryptic. And they really want Ragavan to stay alive. They play a Flooded Strand. They hit us for 2. They exiled Erebos' Intervention, which is unfortunate because that would have been a really good top deck. I didn't even think about this giving your opponent, like, this is like a mini Sword of Feast and Famine. Because it's like giving your opponent mana every time it connects with you, which is allowing them to cast counter spells, and that's really gross. Put a Prismatic Ending to kill our Maze Mind Tome. We untap and draw a Swamp, so play a Swamp. Play Maze Mind Tome. Draw a card with Maze Mind Tome. It's a Swamp. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Polluted Delta. They go to combat. Hit us for 2, we go to 8. Exile Verdant Catacombs, which they can't cast. Is this Prismatic Ending again? It is. We untap, we draw Maze Mind Tome, play a Swamp. So I can do one of two things here. I can either Mastermind's Acquisition to go get Cabal Coffers and try and just play a big Torment of Hailfire to win the game, hoping my opponent has nothing in their last 2 cards in hand. I can Mastermind's Acquisition for a Fatal Push and try and drag this game out longer, or I can play Maze Mind Tome and draw a card and hope to draw a Fatal Push to draw my opponent's counter spells. I think we go with the Maze Mind Tome. I mean, as long as they don't hit Torment of Hailfire, we should be fine. Okay, we draw Collective Brutality. That works. Just not this turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They go to combat. Hit us from 8 to 6. They make a treasure, they hit Inquisition. That's a problem. So the Inquisition. They have even a single counter spell, they take Collective Brutality here. Okay. So we untap, we draw Maze Mind Tome. So I can either Mastermind's Acquisition for removal. I could just draw. Our deck has 90% removal. We just kind of need extra cards. Feed the Swarm. Well, I don't like it, but I gotta cast it. Okay, pass the turn. The opponent has lost their draw engine. They play Teferi Time Raveler. They uptick him. We untap. I think I scry this time. Sign in Blood to the bottom. We draw Verdant Catacombs. Mastermind's Acquisition. Get Cabal Coffers. Play Verdant Catacombs. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They are going to unsummon our Maze Mind Tome, but not before we scry. Fatal Push to the bottom. They draw a card. So I think our best top deck here is a Inquisition or a Thoughtseize. Opponent plays a tap land. So, scry again, gain life. Cabal Coffers number 2, kind of want to keep this. So play the Coffers, add a bunch of mana, play Maze Mind Tome, draw a card, it's a Swamp. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They play a Misty. They're an uptick to Teferi to 3. Or not. They'll just do nothing with him. So we untap. We draw Inquisition. Lead on Inquisition. They bolt our face. And they have nothing. Play Coffers. Cast the really big Torment. That should do it, I think. Opponent discards their whole hand, sacks their treasures, and Teferi. And dies. Sick. Okay, we're bringing in Collective Brutalities as additional duresses. Probably over a Razaketh's Right and a Feed the Swarm. We're definitely bringing in Thought Distortion. I may want Leyline. I don't know if they're playing Snapcaster or not. I think I'll cut one Sign in Blood as well. We'll try it like this. Okay, this hand seems tolerable. It's not amazing, but it does kill Ragavan pretty handily. Want to play Spirebluff Canal and passes. We draw a Sign in Blood. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They play a Glacial Fortress. Tapped. Then they pass. We untap and draw Cabal Coffers. Play a Swamp. I'm not casting Sign in Blood this turn because of my opponent has Force of Negation and they're playing Stoneforge Mystic. I need to be able to kill it on their turn this turn, otherwise they can put whatever they have with it into play. So we let them tutor. They go with Caldra. Kill Stoneforge. Okay. Untap. We draw Sign in Blood. Sign in Blood. Play Urborg. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play an island. 2 mana. They dash Ragavan. They hit us for 2. They exile a Fatal Push. That's annoying, because I would have liked that Fatal Push to deal with Ragavan. Okay, they pick Ragavan back up. We untap. We draw Torment. Play Cabal Coffers. Duress. They crack Misty. They get a Steam Vents untapped. They bolt us. Then we take Prismatic Ending from them. Okay. So now we Sign in Blood. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw a card. They dash Ragavan. They hit us for 2. Exiling Inquisition, which is annoying but not game-ending. They get to see our hand. They take Torment of Hailfire. They pick up Ragavan. I don't even think they played a land. We draw Collective Brutality. So play Coffers. How much mana does this put me at? 9. So I can Mastermind's Acquisition for Thoughtseize. First Duress. Okay. We whiff. So then we go search our library for a Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize you. Take Caldra. Then play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps and draws. They play a Flooded Strand. They play Teferi. They unsummon, so we scry. Swamp to the top. We actually don't mind drawing the swamp here. This way, if our opponent dashes Ragavan, they take nothing of importance from us. They crack Flooded Strand. They get an island. Here comes the monkey. They hit us to 5. Exiling the swamp. Getting a treasure. They play Stoneforge. I think they're still holding an island too, so we know their whole hand. Sword of Feast and Famine. Okay. They pick up Ragavan. We untap, we draw Verdant Catacombs. So play a swamp. How much mana do I have now? 12? I can almost play Emrakul. I don't really have a good way to gain life. I could go get Wormcoil. If I tutor for Torment, that puts me at 8 mana, then I Torment X6. It might be better just to draw cards here. Or go get Erebos' Intervention and gain a bunch of life. Because Torment's not lethal yet. Yeah, let's go get Erebos' Intervention. Because my opponent has 3 cards in hand and 3 permanents on board, so they could just like take no damage if they wanted to from Torment. So get Intervention. Kill Stoneforge. Go up to 10. Then play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps and draws. Plays the island we knew about. Plays Sword. Upticks to Fairy. They've got to be dashing and equipping, right? Oh, they just cast it and did not dash it. They play Stoneforge. And they go get Batterskull. Okay. So, on their end step, scry. Intervention to the bottom. Untap. Scry. Swamp to the bottom. Draw. Sign in Blood. Play Verdant Catacombs. Make a bunch of mana. Sign in Blood. Play Maze Mind Tome. Draw a card. Alright. Pass the turn. They can play and equip Batterskull, but that would be all of their mana. It would take me down to 2. They suit up Ragavan. They attack us for 5. So we are going to discard this Urborg. Opponent passes. Scry on her upkeep. Okay, so we have to draw Erebos' Intervention, which isn't impossible, but it is very unlikely. Okay, Erebos' Intervention. That is not Erebos' Intervention. We died a lightning bolt. Alright, going on to game 3, and I will be restarting the client here, so give me a minute. Alright, game 3, we are on the play, and I think I have to keep this. It's not thrilling, but it, in theory, does do something. Play a swamp, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Scalding Tarn, cracks Scalding Tarn. Gets a Steam Vents untapped. Plays Ragavan, which we are immediately going to push off a cliff. Untap. We draw Thoughtseize. So let's duress. Counterspell, counterspell, cryptic. Take counterspell. Pass the turn. They play Glacial Fortress. They play Stoneforge Mystic. Getting Batterskull. We untap and draw Urborg. Play Urborg. Thoughtseize. Take Teferi. 2 mode. Kill Duress. Ditch Mastermind's Acquisition. Take Counterspell. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Flooded Strand. Passes. We draw Sign in Blood. Sign in Blood. Play a Swamp. Play Mazemind Tome. Pass the turn. Now we're just looking for Cabal Coffers and maybe another Hand Hate spell to get around Cryptic. Definitely another Hand Hate spell to get around Cryptic. Scry on my opponent's end step. Lock Thwain to the bottom. Untap. We draw Coffers. Draw another card. Verdant Catacombs. Play Catacombs. Pass the turn. I think it's possible my opponent has like Ghost Quarter or Cleansing Wildfire. So I'm going to wait on playing this Coffers. If they just run out a Naked Batterskull next turn, I will fire off a maximum-sized Torment of Hellfire, because they would have to have Force of Negation, Cryptic as their last 2 cards, and they would have to pitch Cryptic to do it. They've not had that many opportunities to draw Force of Negation, and if we hit a Thoughtseize in our top 2 cards, it makes it a lot safer. Rozikit's right to the bottom. Draw Swamp. Play Coffers. Torment of Hailfire X7. Pretty sure this is Force of Negation or die. Well, they can sack the Germ and Batterskull, so maybe not, but it's close. They sack the Germ. They sack Batterskull. And they die. Alright. That worked out for us. I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, we're on the play for round 4. And I'm going to keep this hand. We got some good card draw. We got Coffers. Lead on Swamp, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Misty Rainforest and pass. We draw another Cabal Coffers. Sign in Blood. Okay. Next turn, hopefully we can play Inquisition into Mazemind Tome. Opponent fetches up a Steam Vents tapped. They play an island. We untap. Draw Thoughtseize. Play a Swamp. Inquisition. Violent Outburst. Shardless Agent. Force of Negation. It's probably Rhinos then. If it is Rhinos, what do we do? So, Shardless Agent is their best Cascader. If I take a Cascader and then cast Thoughtseize, my opponent will just force pitching a card they don't care about. Let's get rid of Shardless. Thoughtseize. Let's try and make them force. They force pitching Jace. So they're holding these 3 cards in Fire and Ice. Okay. Pass the turn. Creatures in theory we can deal with. They just ice our land. Play Wooded Foothills. They crack Wooded Foothills. For a forest. We untap. We draw Mazemind Tome. Play Cabal Coffers. Activate it. Play Mazemind Tome. Draw a card. Okay. We get an Urborg. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to Violent Outburst on our end step, and provided they've drawn a card, or drawn a land in their 1 extra draw they've had, they're going to play Karn this turn. Ouch. That's really bad. Hit us for 8. Erebos' Intervention's kind of nice. So play Urborg. Erebos' Intervention, kill a Rhino. Gain life, pass the turn. Maybe I should have led on Thoughtseize. They were going to cascade this game. If they didn't counter it, then at least we could have taken Karn. But there was no way for me to know. We draw Sign in Blood. So Sign in Blood. We get a Razaketh's Right, which I'm just going to cycle. Get a Fatal Push, play a Swamp, pass the turn, stop on my opponent's turn, kill the Rhino. Okay. Yeah, I think tons of power and toughness into Karn destroying your land every turn. It's probably one of the worst things that can happen to the mono black deck, especially when we're relying on Maze Mind Tome to draw cards. When it plays a land, they crack it. Get an island. They wish, so they're not destroying a land this turn. We got Wormcoil Engine. Okay. Torment. We need Torment. They shut off Urborg on our upkeep. We get Inquisition. Cast it. It's a little bit feeble. Take Outburst. Play Verdant. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They're going to kill Urborg this turn. They hit us for... They're just going to kill a Swamp. They're not going to shoot Urborg. That's incorrect. We go to 4, they go to 21, we untap. Draw Collective Brutality. But that doesn't do anything. Kind of unfortunate. So versus our opponent's deck, I definitely want Thought Distortion in. Break the Ice kills like 1 or 2 of their lands. And I want Brutality. What am I taking out? Bloodchief's Thirst doesn't hit enough thing. Actually, it does. They play Planeswalkers. Erebos' Intervention's kind of bad. Guess I'll only play 1 Feed the Swarm. We'll try it like this. Alright. His hand is much better. We'll keep. Lead on Inquisition. One of those Crashing Footfalls and Shardless Agent. Well, if I don't take Crashing Footfalls, they're going to Cascade, which is worse. But if I take Shardless Agent, Collective Brutality doesn't really have a target. I'm going to take Shardless Agent. Pass the turn. If their best play is suspending Crashing Footfalls, that... Yeah. Okay, that should be fine. Play Swamp, play an Expedition map, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, Crashing Footfalls, ticking down. We play Misty. We untap, draw Torment. Tutor. Get Urborg. Play Urborg. Pass the turn. They crack Misty. If they tap Urborg on our end step, I'm going to cycle Razaketh's Right. Okay, we get a second Torment, which means an early Torment is not out of the question. 2 more turns on that Crashing Footfalls. We untap. We draw an Erebos' Intervention, play Cabal Coffers. I think I will Torment X3. Opponent discards Brazen Borrower, Karn, and Violent Outburst. Okay. They stomp our face, untap Crashing Footfalls. Taken down to 1. We untap, draw a swamp, play a swamp, pass the turn. Okay, so Crashing Footfalls coming off suspend. Let's kill a rhino and gain a bunch of life. Okay. Opponent plays a Misty. They'll probably just cast Bone Crusher unless they have another Cascader, at which point they'll do that. They play Clothis. Okay, come on, Coffers number 2. Swamp. Okay, play a Swamp. It's 9. So Torment of Hellfire X7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They only take 9. Feed the Swarm, kill the token. Duress. Take Prismari command. But opponent has Shardless Agent, which is an issue, because that puts 3 more permanents on board. I think we need to top deck another Coffers. Opponent drains us for 2. Here comes Shardless. They get a Footfalls. We untap. We draw Thoughtseize. We don't really have another option at this point. Cast a really big Torment of Hailfire. Opponent discards a Crashing Footfalls, sacks a Shardless Agent. They can take 15 and go to 4. Looks like that's exactly what they're doing. Okay. They untap, they drain us. And maybe playing that other Torment of Hailfire X3 was really premature. I'm pretty tired. This changes the clock. Alright, we're just going to try and draw Torment of Hailfire. Also, by changes the clock, I mean kills me if I cast. But it exiles Erebos' Intervention, they go to 8. They hit us to 2. Torment of Hailfire or bust. Fatal Push is a bust. Well, they had the Force anyway, so we weren't winning that. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, round 5, we're against a Luris deck, and we can't keep because we only have Coffers. Okay, this is way better, but we do need to draw something that isn't a land. I'm going to lead on Urborg, pass the turn. Yeah, I was going to say, opponent is probably Burn. You lead on Soulscar Mage, we draw Razaketh's Right. So cycle the right, play Castle, kill Soulscar, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Mountain, spikes us, and lights up the stage. We draw Mastermind's Acquisition. So play Coffers, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Sunbaked Canyon, which is not the land that they put into exile. They bolt us, and then they pass. We untap and draw an Erebos' Intervention. Play Cabal Coffers. Let's do a quick mana check here. 6. Okay. Pass the turn. When it cycles Sunbaked Canyon, they untap. They play an Arid Mesa. And they pass. Opponent must not have a very good burn hand. We untap. Draw Feed the Swarm. Play a Swamp. Coffers. Coffers, we're at 9. Yeah, let's Masterminds Acquisition. We'll go get Torment. I think taking out one Razaketh's Right and putting back in Increasing Ambition is definitely the play. I think Increasing Ambition when black mana is not an issue is probably one of the best cards you could be casting, period. So it fetches up a Sacred Foundry tapped. Okay. They play an Arid Mesa. They play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. And then they pass. They're going to Lava Spike and Surveil. So they shoot us to 11. We untap. We draw another Urborg. So play a Swamp. Check mana. We have 12. So I get X10. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, which prevents 12 damage out of 30. Does that kill them? Torment Palefire X10. 30 minus 12 is 18. They're at 19. If they crack that Arid Mesa, they die. Basically how that works. So we can wait a turn. Hopefully cast a huge Erebos' Intervention. So stopping my opponent's upkeep. Kill Dragon's Rage Channeler. At worst, they bolt their own guy. Yeah. Which is pretty good for us. They surveil a Bloodstained Mire away. We do not gain 11 life. They play a land, which makes Torment of Hailfire better. They put Lurrus into their hand, which makes it slightly worse, but not that much worse. We untap, draw Erebos' Intervention. So... They can discard 3 cards and prevent 9 damage out of 30, which they die. And I can get 1 more mana if I want it, and I do. Torment of Hailfire. Okay, opponent scoops. So game 2, Collective Brutality is coming in, Feed the Swarm is going out, Kalitas is coming in, as is Damnation. And we'll be dropping Razaketh's Right and a Sign in Blood. Actually, I think I'll keep Razaketh's Right in over a Sign in Blood, and we'll try it like this. There's more life loss in this hand than I want, but we do have 2 Erebos' Intervention, and Thoughtseize should at least offset a little bit of damage, but it's kind of risky. We need to top deck like Urborg and Coffers in that order. We are on the draw. Opponent did mulligan to 5, so Thoughtseize might actually do a lot of work. Opponent leads on Arid Mesa, Shock, Sacred Foundry, Dragon's Rage Channeler. We untap and draw Coffers. That's one of the things I wanted. Thoughtseize our opponent. Take... This is tough. So my opponent can Lava Spike, and my opponent can cast Swift Spear. If they draw land, they can Manamorphose. If they can draw land and Manamorphose, we're in trouble. I think we take Swift Spear. Pass the turn. We have to hope our opponent can't get Delirium this turn. Which, if they're casting Manamorphose, they almost certainly can. Because they can put an instant and a sorcery in the grave. Which means we can't kill Dragon's Rage Channeler with Erebos' Intervention like we were hoping. But we can shrink it back down using Erebos' Intervention. They leave it on top, whatever it is. Then they draw. They lava spike us. They're floating a white. So Delirium enabled. They hit us for 3, we go to 12. We untap. Draw Erebos' Intervention. Play Castle Locktwain. Let's exile Swift Spear and Arid Mesa. Pass the turn. Now, if they can't rebuild Delirium, I took the 2 types that I think is going to be hardest for them to get in the grave. We can use an Erebos' Intervention to kill the Dragon's Rage Channeler this time. Come on, Urborg. Verdant Catacombs is not Urborg, but I think it'll work. Crack Verdant, get a Swamp. Kill Darcy. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They go to combat. Hit us for 1. Boros Charm. We untap. Draw Cabal Coffers. Play Coffers. Kill Soulscar. Pass the turn. Come on, Urborg. I believe in the Urborg. Swamp is not Urborg, but play Maze Mind Tome. Draw a card. Pass the turn. We get Boros Charmed again. Opponent untaps. They got 2 cards in hand. Do they got it? Okay, we untap. I think a Scry is in order. Mastermind's Acquisition. I will leave on top. Play Coffers. Mastermind's Acquisition. Get Brutality. Duress and Drain. Ditch Sign and Blood. Take Light up the stage from them. Pass the turn. So that means we will likely survive long enough to activate Maze Mind Tome. Opponent bolts our face. Lights up the stage. If they hit land bolt, we're dead. Okay. Well, I tried. Alright. On to game 3. I don't think we make any adjustments. No, Wormcoil Engine should come in. Wormcoil Engine in, Sign and Blood out. Alright, we do want to play first. Urborg, Inquisition, Fatal Push, Blood Chief's Thirst. Yep, this is about as good of a hand as we can get. So, lead on Inquisition. Opponent has Soulscar, Soulscar, Bolt, Bolt, Dart, Manamorphose. Take Soulscar. Okay, pass the turn. Put a play Sunbaked Canyon, which is a land that they drew. Then play Soulscar. We draw Cabal Coffers. Play Expedition Map. Play a Blood Chief's Thirst. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play an Arid Mesa. They might Manamorphose. They do not. We draw Verdant Catacombs. Play Coffers. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. They crack Arid Mesa. They get a Sacred Foundry. They untap. They play another Sunbaked Canyon. They play a Mishra's Bauble. They crack Bauble. They put Luris into their hand. but they tapped to deal damage to themselves in the process, and that I don't really understand. Scry on their end step, Mazemind Tome to the bottom, untap, they draw, we draw, swamp. Play Verdant Catacombs, pass the turn. They untap, they play a land, they play Luris, they cast Soul Scar, so sack map, get Coffers 3, kill Luris, scry, push can go on top. They resolve Soul Scar, we untap, draw push, play Coffers, kill... Actually, we should draw first. We should definitely draw first. Because if we draw a Erebos' Intervention, it's going to be like game over. We have so much mana. Okay. Now it's safe to push. Okay, pass the turn. And we're going to gain life next turn, which is pretty awesome. Okay, opponent Lava Spikes us. Lights up the stage. They get Dragon's Rage Channeler and Manamorphose. They play Dragon's Rage Channeler. And they play Seal of Fire. Okay. They have Delirium. We have 2 draws to find a way to kill our opponent. Or gain a million life, one of the two. We untap. We draw a swamp. Play a swamp. Activate. Draw a card. Gain life. So we're up to 21, and we draw Erebos' Intervention, which is awesome. Because our opponent is tapped out. Let's actually just get a swamp here. So Erebos' Intervention, gain 12 life, kill it their only threat. They can't even Seal of Fire their own guy, which is awesome. So opponent untaps, they draw a card, they play Bauble, crack it. I don't know why they keep paying life for Sunbaked Canyon. That's like 4 life they could have had, unless they're playing Death Shadow. They play Dragon's Rage Channeler, cast Lava Dart. They get to Surveil. I think they put Lava Spike in the grave. Okay. Come on, Torment, or Mastermind's Acquisition. Coffers 4. Play Coffers, pass the turn. Well, if we ever draw it, we're going to cast the biggest Torment in the universe. Opponent plays a Monastery Swiftspear, they attack us for 4. They cast Manamorphose during combat for some reason. Adding white-red. They bolt us. Well, it's a lot of damage. They could Lava Dart as well. And they have Boros Charm. They give Swiftspear Double Strike, which is worse than just dealing 4 damage here. Because, oh no, I guess they have Lava Dart. They didn't Lava Dart, though. Okay. Well, we have a million good draws. Let's draw one. Castle Locthwain. Not exactly what I was thinking of. I'm going to risk death. Okay. It wasn't death at all. It was actually Uber Omega life. Because now my opponent has to Seal of Fire and Lava Dart their own guy. Otherwise we gain more life than we started with in one go. I mean, it's still not impossible for us to lose. Or they just let that go through. Okay. Opponent unwilling to sack a land, give up a cast engrave, and seal a fire themselves. I respect it. Opponent cycles a Sunbaked Canyon, plays a land, hits us for 1, we go to 36. Nope. They bolt us. We go to 32. Untap. We draw Mastermind's Acquisition, and that's the game. Play a swamp. Activate Coffers. Activate Coffers. Activate Coffers. Activate Coffers. Mastermind's Acquisition. We will get Torment of Hailfire. Cast Torment. And I'm going to leave back 3 mana and play around Mana Tithe. I think we got him. Alright, let's open up our treasure chest. I'm going to do a really quick wrap-up. Because I'm really tired and it's super late, and I would like to go to sleep. This version of the deck probably needs to be black-green, specifically because the only way that we're going to win is by turboing out a whole bunch of mana. And if we're playing green, we can play Explore, we can play Arboreal Grazer, we can play any of those effects, which will be super good in a deck like this. The only other way we win is by playing multiple Cabal Coffers along with an Urborg, so possibly we play more Expedition maps in a version like this. I think the green route's probably better, but not 100%. Sign and Blood performed worse than expected, but still rather decently. I don't have any huge complaints with that. Feed the Swarm, I still have not seen anyone else running Urza's Saga, so I don't know if I'm just playing in like the wrong brackets. Or if the card's not actually as good as I initially feared it was. So maybe Feed the Swarm needs to be different removal. I still kind of want to play Surgical Extractions. I still want to play Haunting Echoes, and maybe I will in the main version of this deck that I'm still going to continue playing with. I think this version's a lot more linear, a lot less interesting. Doesn't have anywhere near as cool tutor lines. I definitely think you should be playing an Increasing Ambition if you're playing this list. But yeah, I'm going to keep working on the main one. I don't think I'm going to continue down this path. Maybe later when I start splashing colors in this deck, but until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier than that. And yeah, I want you to know that you're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for watching. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of June. If you want to have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon down in the description below. Thank you all.